Ever feel like you're talking to a brick wall on sales calls? You're not alone, but what if there's a way to turn those not interested responses into tell me more? We're about to dive into the psychology behind effective cold calling and show you how to make prospects want to keep listening. Cold calling might make you cringe, but it's still a powerhouse in the sales world. Armand, Farrokh and Cegelski, the brains behind Cold Calling Sucks, and that's why it works. Chapter 1. Turning Fear into Fuel. Here's why the most successful salespeople aren't fearless, they're fear embracers. What if your anxiety around cold calling is actually an indicator that you're heading in the right direction? Let's face it, nobody likes hearing no over and over again. But top performers in sales don't just tolerate rejection, they thrive on it. They see each no as a stepping stone to success, using it to fuel their motivation and sharpen their skills. It's not being immune to rejection, it's reframing it as a natural part of the process. But how do you develop this mental toughness? It's not a matter of gritting your teeth and powering through. Instead, it's regular practice, positive self-talk, and learning from each rejection experience. Every time you pick up the phone, you're not just dialing a number, you're dialing up an opportunity. An opportunity to connect, to learn customer needs, and yes, even to face rejection. But by focusing on the potential for success rather than dwelling on the fear of failure, you're already ahead of the game. Farrokh and Cegelski say success in sales is determined by the number of uncomfortable conversations you're willing to have. It's not about being comfortable, it's about getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. Each call is a chance to stretch your comfort zone and grow your skills. Chapter 2. The backbone of confident calls. Celebrating small wins is crucial, but let's take it a step further. What if your first words could make or break the entire call? There's a reason why some salespeople consistently outperform others, and it's not just luck. It's time to learn the art of the perfect opener, one that grabs attention without sounding like a sales pitch. You might believe cold calling relies on quick thinking, but the true secret is in the preparation before you even dial. Thorough preparation is the backbone of confident calls, and it can dramatically increase your chances of success. So how can 10 minutes of prep work double your chances of booking a meeting? It's all to do with doing your homework. Researching your prospects isn't just a nice to have, it's essential for building rapport and delivering a personalized pitch. This means understanding their industry, company size, and the specific challenges they face. But here's where most people get it wrong. They focus on crafting a traditional sales pitch filled with buzzwords and jargon. Instead, top performers use what's called a problem proposition. This approach is proven to be significantly more effective, with a 16% success rate compared to only 5.5% for buzzword-heavy pitches. So what exactly is a problem proposition? It's a way of framing your call around a specific problem that resonates with your prospect. Instead of launching into a sales spiel, you spend 80% of your time discussing the problem. Then, you provide a one-sentence solution and end with a low-friction call to action. By focusing on their problems rather than your product, you're more likely to keep them engaged. And when you combine this with thorough research and a well-crafted opener, you're setting yourself up for success before you even say hello. Chapter 3. The Art of the Call. There's a method to the madness, and it all starts with nailing 4 key components that separate the amateurs from the pros. The art of execution. It's not just dialing numbers, it's mastering a strategic approach that can turn a potentially awkward interaction into a productive conversation. First up, we have the opening. This is your make or break moment. Forget generic pleasantries like, "How's your day going?" They're a one-way ticket to getting hung up on. Instead, lead with context that relates to your prospect. Armand Farrokh introduces 2 powerful openers, the heard the name tossed around, and the tailored permission opener method. This approach directly acknowledges the cold call and seeks permission to proceed, establishing credibility and relevance right from the start. Imagine saying something like, "Hey Nick, we work with a few other partners in the LA office. Have you heard my name tossed around?" This immediately establishes credibility and piques interest. Or try this. "I just finished reading your press release about the new office opening. I'm going to be honest, this is a cold call, but can I have 30 seconds to explain why I called?" This approach acknowledges the nature of the call while respecting the prospect's time. Now, the pitch. Here's where many salespeople go wrong by launching into a buzzword talk. but data shows that using problem-based language is 3 times more effective. Instead of rattling off features, focus on describing a specific issue the prospect faces and briefly present your solution. But what happens when you encounter objections? This is where the real pros shine. Anticipate common objections and prepare confident, persuasive responses. It's not about combating the objection, but addressing it with a positive, solution-oriented approach. Finally, we have the close. This is where you aim to secure a commitment, whether it's a meeting, a sample, or a purchase. The key here is to use what you've learned during the call to tailor your closing approach. Make it feel like a natural progression of the conversation, not a sudden hard sell. Throughout the entire call, keep in mind the concept of earning the next minute. Every moment you're on the phone is an opportunity to engage the prospect further. Your tone should be conversational and relatable, as if you're calling a referral rather than a stranger. Chapter 4, From Objections to Opportunities. Now, let's tackle the elephant in the room, objections. There's a method that can transform your response to "I'm not interested" from a dead end into a golden opportunity. It's called the Mr. Miyagi method, and it's changing the game in cold calling. This 3-step approach, inspired by the wise mentor from The Karate Kid, is surprisingly simple, yet incredibly effective. First, you agree with the objection. It sounds counterintuitive, right? But by agreeing, you disarm the prospect's defenses. Imagine someone says, "I have no budget." Instead of pushing back, you respond, "Totally get it, man. Look, honestly, it's harder to keep it, let alone buy something new." Next, you incentivize conversation. This is where you dig deeper into their situation. You might say, "Just so no one from my team calls you again, could you give me a sense if that's because the budget for this cycle is totally out or if any spending puts you through the entire ringer?" By asking for more information, you're not only showing genuine interest, but also uncovering potential opportunities. Finally, you sell the test drive. This is offering a low-pressure next step. For instance, you probably won't buy this thing right now, but are you open to taking a look when budget does get freed up? This approach keeps the door open for future engagement without pushing for an immediate sale. The beauty of the Mr. Miyagi method is that it transforms objections from roadblocks into pathways. When a prospect says, "I'm not interested," they're often rejecting the interruption, not your product. By using this method, you're acknowledging their perspective while gently guiding the conversation forward. Top sales professionals understand that objections are a natural part of the process. They prepare tailored responses to common objections, addressing specific concerns rather than falling back on generic pitches. This preparation allows for more confident and effective responses, significantly increasing meeting booking rates. One powerful tool in your arsenal is social proof. Mentioning that you help similar clients can create instant trust and relevance. It's not to do with name dropping. It's about showing that you understand their industry and have solved similar problems before. Chapter 5, Becoming a Cold Calling Machine. Think you're making enough calls? What if top salespeople aim for 40 dials in a single hour? But it's not just about quantity. There's a method to this madness that separates the pros from the amateurs, and it's time you know what it is. It's not just picking up the phone more often. It's working smarter, not harder. The key is efficiency and scale, and that's where most salespeople fall short. First up, let's tackle the gatekeeper issue. You know, those folks whose job it is to keep you from reaching your target. Enter the triple bypass approach. This strategy is giving minimal information initially and gradually revealing more context as needed. It's like a chess game. You're always thinking a few moves ahead. Remember those 40 dials per hour I mentioned? That's not just a random figure. It's a benchmark set by top performers. But you can't sacrifice quality for quantity. The secret? Prepare your contact list beforehand and eliminate distractions during your calling sessions. It's creating a laser-focused environment where you can operate at peak efficiency. Timing is everything in cold calling. Ever wonder why some days your calls seem to go nowhere? It might be when you're making them. Research shows that morning hours are prime time for cold calling. That's why top performers set up a daily prospecting schedule with dedicated green hours for making calls. They save their afternoons for customer meetings, maximizing their productivity throughout the day. But what about when you can't get through? That's where the art of the voicemail comes in. A well-crafted voicemail isn't pitching your product. It's creating context and directing prospects back to an email. Keep it brief, focused, and intriguing enough to warrant a follow-up. Here's a pro tip that might surprise you. Rotate your phone numbers. Why? Because using the same number too frequently can get you flagged as spam, tanking your connection rates. It's a simple change that can have a massive impact on your success. You've learned the techniques, now it's time to put them into action. Success in sales isn't being comfortable. It's about embracing those uncomfortable conversations. If you enjoyed this summary, please subscribe to our channel.